forth with liberty and justice for all.
So there's a lot of FFAers in here because we know that there's not a comma before under guide. So good on you.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan.
Bet. Learning to do, doing to learn.
Learning to do, doing to learn. That's right. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, just check the grammar out in the Pledge of Allegiance and you'll understand. There's not a comma before under God. So anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody and call to order this regular business meeting of the Stephenville City Council here on Tuesday, October the 7th. It's 5:30 and welcome everybody. We've got a great crowd tonight. And we've got I'd call it a moderate agenda. Just depends on how much intro I give at the beginning. Right, Mr. Hogan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Not
All right, but before we get to any of the formal thing, well, I guess this is a formal thing. Let me, okay, all right. Mr. Pendleton,
Hey.
can I get you to come here, please?
Would love to, Mayor.
Are we voting on impeachment now?
All right, here's your chance, council.
All in favor?
We live in a free country where it is my privilege to issue a proclamation, whereas on Friday, August 22nd, 2014, at 8:09 a.m., the world became a better and sweeter place with the birth of Chandler Elizabeth Pendleton.
Hey.
And whereas Chandler Pendleton was born at Texas Health Kubley Hospital in Burleson at a birth weight of 5 pounds, 15 ounces, and 18 inches, and whereas Chandler Elizabeth is now at home in Stephenville with her father and mother, Brady and Lisa Pendleton, and big brother, Jonathan. And whereas with the birth of each new infant, there exists an enormous potential for loving, for learning, and making life better for others. Now, therefore, we, as city council members of the city of Stephenville, extend our best wishes to the Pendleton family upon the birth of Chandler Elizabeth Pendleton. May this day begin for this new citizen of the city of Stephenville and state of Texas a life of promise and hope. Dad, congratulations.
How do y'all know I was the father, though?
Oh, I'm telling you.
Brady.
You realize this is being televised.
Leave it to
Don't look over here.
He's your best friend, isn't he?
All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
It's a great event, and it's I know y'all are kind of over the sleepless curve a little bit, maybe.
We've adjusted, so yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're glad she takes after her mom.
Yeah.
Very glad.
The other thing I'd like to mention before we get into the agenda, a couple of things. First of all, I want to congratulate the Cowboy Capital PRCA Rodeo Committee, the great work that they did for our community. Western Heritage Week was a huge success. If you didn't read the paper last Sunday, you may not know, but our rodeo went from being a no-name second thought to now being the number 13 out of 79 rodeos in the state of Texas, and it's well on its way to being a premier rodeo in the nation. And that is due to a lot of hard work, but it is really good for our community to be able to reap the benefits of that, and for it to be a week-long event, I think is really great for the community as well. We've got some things to look forward to. Friday night, we're going to beat Brownwood.
Yeah.
And then then we got Saturday Tarleton Homecoming coming up, and going to beat the Angelo State. Kingsville, I'm sorry. Thank you. Same difference.
They're both bad.
There are also a couple of things I wanted to make sure citizens were aware of this week, and then in the month of October, we've got Fire Prevention Week, which falls the week of October 9th. And as Chief Chu can probably share with everybody that October 9th date is in recognition of the Great Chicago Fire, which kicked off a lot of emphasis on fire prevention, fire safety in this nation. And so Fire Prevention Week this week. Also, two things this month to be aware of. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the month of October. And very important for all citizens to observe this month and becoming aware of the tragedy of domestic violence and supporting those who are working towards its end and participating in community efforts to that. And then, last but not least, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This year, more than 230,000 women and 2,000 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer in America. And hopefully during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we can recognize those who have anguished with cancer and have redoubled our efforts to improve their care and bring attention to the disease. So just wanted to mention those three things and finding opportunities in the community to participate be a great thing. The first item on the agenda is citizens' general discussion, and I've got a couple of requests here, and I'll start out by calling Sarah Cottle and Shelley Gilliland. You want to come forward? Just state your name and address, please.
Shelley Gilliland, and my address is 2308 County Road 429 in Stephenville.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to be before you today. We've come here today to ask for your blessing on something that we have a passion for, and that we see an opportunity to bring back something that was previously here in Stephenville and run with it. So, and that's the events that happen on the 4th of July here in Stephenville. And when I came here, since I've been here, there's been the parade and then the Texas Ford Summer Concert Series going on down at the park, and the Christian Classic Cruisers going on down there as well. And began asking why there wasn't something there, and I was informed that there used to be at one time, the Family Fun Fair. And I started thinking about this a couple of years ago, and right before 4th of July this year, started kind of reaching out to some people and kind of feeling the waters and seeing if there were others out there who felt the same way that I did. And from my understanding, the committee who was for the Family Fun Fair just kind of dwindled, and there wasn't really anyone who stepped up. And so here I am stepping up and wanting to do that. We don't want to take away, again, we don't want to take away from what's already in place. We just want to add to. And kind of what we put together is barbecue bands and bottle rockets on the Bosky. And you guys have a couple of forms there in front of you. You have the logo that we've come up with, the registration form for nonprofit organizations, which is what our funds that are raised from the event will go to once we figure out, choose which ones we're going to be donating the funds to. And you've also got the barbecue cook-off registration form there. And that'll be an amateur barbecue cook-off. And we hope to make this an annual event. We see potential for it to grow and to add things as we continue to do. We don't want to get overwhelmed within the first year. The first time we met, everybody had all of these great ideas, and there's about 29 ideas that we had, and we had to limit it down to our main basics right now. The bottle rockets will be a place for the kids to not run free, but have fun, and we will ask youth organizations, booster clubs, church youth groups to be a part of it and give them an opportunity to raise money for their organizations as well. So, anything to add?
Basically, I'm born and raised, never left here, and I remember as a child going to the park
great. Any questions?
Have you spoken with the previous committees to see that? Because I remember the same days, and it died from lack of interest. It really wasn't lack of interest because it took them hundreds and hundreds of hours of time to put the thing together. So have you talked to some of the previous Fun Fair committee members?
We've talked to a couple, and when you've done it for a long time, I mean, this was, what did you say, 76 is when it started? And I'm not sure when it, 90s maybe, when it dwindled down. And the same people had done it for many, many years. And I think that they all got burnt out around the same time, and it just kind of dwindled. And we're fresh and we're new, and we know what we're getting into. This isn't our first planning of an event. Shelley does a lot for nonprofits and fundraisers for families here in the community, and I've done a lot of planning myself. So
It is something that we understand we will need a lot of support, and people, I mean, obviously we can't do it, the two of us, but we have reached out, and we have quite a large group that is willing to, we have a core committee that is working on the details and flying everything out, and then we have an expanded committee of people that are willing to step up.
How big are those committees?
The core committee is, there's 5 of us, yes, and then
there's about 25 others
Great.
that have
Great.
volunteered to be there later on when we get all the basics lined out.
the details lined out, worked out, and then they will step up and help us execute the plan.
Good
Sarah,
size.
Sarah, I would like to thank you and Shelley for stepping up and doing this. It's a great need. It's a great thing for the community, and I admire your efforts. Volunteer numbers are going to be the key, and whatever we can do to help you, don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr. Hogan?
are y'all just gonna integrate the bands in from the Techstar Summer Music Series? Are y'all gonna have additional
Well,
music throughout the day?
Yes, we will have a stage beginning at 11-ish till around 4 o'clock. And then the Summer Techstar fourth concert series, if he decides to continue to do that, he's willing, I've talked to him today, and he will work with us if that's something that he decides to continue. If not, then we will manpower the concert in the evening. It probably won't be as big as it has been, at least for this first year, considering the funds that it takes to pay the acts that are there, or that have been there in the past. One thing that we're looking at doing is a singer-songwriter competition, much like the one that Larry Joe does for his music festival, but keep it hometown and do hometown musicians to where the winner of that will get to open up and play it in a four-piece spot before the summer concert series, where the one that we put together happens.
And again, this is something we're not going to take away from what is already done on the 4th of July. We are just going to add to. So
Sure.
we see it as we have a window, a time frame of 11 to 5. And it trades over in the summer concert series.
Seems like it would work really if Mr. Montgomery wanted to, it'd really work well together. And like Russ said, I just want to commend y'all, because you hear all the time people complaining and that there's nothing to do, and instead of complaining, y'all are stepping up and leading, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you all very much. This is very exciting. Thank you. Okay, I've got another request, but I'm gonna hold that until we get to that item on the agenda. So we'll move on to item 3. Well, let me just ask if there's any other general discussion. Okay. All right, seeing none, then I'll move on to the Planning and Zoning Commission section of the agenda, and I will open a public hearing to consider a request to allow a conditional use of home occupation for Lot 2 in the south 50 feet of Lot 3, Block 1, Dale Avenue, North Addition, located at 1317 Inglewood Drive within the R3 Multiple Family Residential District. And ask Judy Miller to come forward and give us a presentation and welcome her to the podium.
Mayor and Council, great to be here. Everybody can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. We have the, can you get land use map up? This case is being recommended from the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. It is a home occupation on Lot 2, the south 50 feet of Lot 3, Lot 1, Dale Avenue North, 1317 Angel Drive in Stephenville. The X marks the spot sort of thing. It's a single-family house, and although this shows this zoning area as R3, multiple family, it's all developed as single-family, so I don't think that. But the other area, as you can see in yellow, is definitely single-family in nature. We do have some B1 nearby with the neighborhood district, business district. Planning and zoning, Nathan is here this evening. Nathan Aldridge is the applicant and the owner of his property. He is requesting a conditional use permit in the single-family district for this firearm sales. The planning commission met on September the 29th to recommend approval of this request to the city council. Vote was 4-2. Again, the lot is, although zoned multifamily, it's occupied by a single-family residential structure, and the surrounding land uses are single-family. Your zoning ordinance in Stephenville defines a home occupation as, quote, any occupation or profession engaged in by the occupants of a dwelling, not involved in the conduct of retail business. The occupation shall be conducted in the building which is used by the occupant as his or her private dwelling. Home occupations shall include professional services. Mr. Aldridge's letter in the application stated that the reason for this request is to allow him to buy and sell firearms and ammunition within the home at 1317 Inglewood. He has applied for his federal firearms license and has passed the federal background check and interview with ATF. As part of the review, evidently the ATF inquired with the city, and this is how all this got started. The ATF called the city to verify that the property met the zoning regulations. So that's how all this came about. And so he came to the city, and he was directed by staff through the process of the conditional use permit through the zoning ordinance in that zoning district. Many city ordinances that you'll see around the state place their approval, their conditions that you have on conditional use permits. You do not have that option here. You simply approve the conditional use permit. So you cannot put any conditions on it. I would possibly make a recommendation to the P&Z and council that you look at that ordinance. I understand from some council members that you don't have that many requests or haven't had that many requests over the years for conditional use permits.
question?
Yeah.
What?
This says he's applied for federal firearms license and passed lots of tests. Is there any evidence of that that we know of? We just taking
Not
his,
to my knowledge, I don't know what the
is that,
process.
we just taking his word for it?
Well, that wasn't passed along to me from staff. Can't really, I'm sorry, Councilman, but I can't answer that question. So, there might be, Mr. Aldridge can answer that.
I do have paperwork approval from the ATF.
I'd like to see the paperwork before we start handing out firearms licenses, you know?
But that's not what we're doing.
Well, we're giving them authority to operate here, so, I mean, I don't see why somebody ought to have, you know, the right to move and do this kind of stuff without even knowing whether he's got a license or not.
I don't think he can do it legally without that license. Whether we approve it or not, I don't think he can do it legally.
Well, we're just gonna let anybody walk in here and say he got a federal firearms license and say, okay?
It's a good point, Boyd. I have a question, Judy.
That's why you
Well,
put
let me-
conditions on something.
Mr. Wagner, are you finished?
Yes.
Is it, you got your, okay, all right. Mr. McDaniel?
It says here that, as you quoted, any occupation or profession engaged in by the occupants of a dwelling not involving the conduct of a retail business. If he's gonna be selling firearms and ammunition, isn't that conducting a retail business? In your opinion,
Well, there's a gray area there, and I think there is, and I would say there is a little bit of interpretation there.
okay.
It probably does, this whole thing needs to be looked at as far as revision of the definition, the whole situation with the conditional use permit and the definition of home occupation.
Right,
I
that-
would suggest that to you.
Okay. And you pointed out too that the City of Stephenville zoning ordinance does not speak to the conditions. We really need to have our horse in front of our cart before we go out there and do this.
I wouldn't-
You said there were no written correspondence to you for or against it. Were there any phone calls to your office or to the city secretary
Not to my
expressing?
knowledge, sir.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge, and I was not, this case was going on as I arrived in Stephenville.
Not even any calls of inquiry?
Not to my knowledge.
And everyone within 200 feet got the letter of this request?
Well, I can't validate or verify.
They were mailed?
They were mailed.
Okay, good enough.
Like they got there?
If they weren't sent by certified or confirmation, delivery confirmation.
That's from a postman.
They can't be verified.
Mr. Savine?
Yeah, in other cities that I have served, there was, we include, with the letter, and it's a very extensive letter explaining exactly what's gonna go on. And one of the things that I will do while I'm here is the letters that go out to property owners will be kind of an educational tool about things. And then we also, in other cities, inserted a postcard that you could return to the city staff and then forward it on to the P and Z council, so you can kind of know what people felt one way or the other.
That's a great idea and convenient for the citizen.
Exactly.
Mr. Savine?
If the applicant performed this type of business in an appropriately zoned area, what would the zoning be? And are there any restrictions? I don't know, I mean, I've been on say it on television. I know I own guns, but if I'm selling them in the retail business, are there some types of protections as far as setbacks and protections from something happening negatively, like a fire, this sort of thing? Is there something else he would have to get approval for or perform to be able to do it safely in another kind of environment?
Copus, I cannot tell you that. I haven't that much of a grasp of your zoning ordinance yet. I could certainly get back to you that, but, I think it would take like a B3 or something as zoning district.
So,
to do that kind of retail.
and that's what I was asking, so in a B3, for example, then would it have certain other kinds of safety features that would protect it from the other business next to it, which in this case would be a home, et cetera?
Yeah, and I apologize,
Don't know.
I'm just not
Okay.
that familiar with your ordinance yet.
I probably should have called you and asked you that question so you could be prepared.
I can find out, and I mean, I can get back with you, but, that's not untypical of
Mhm.
other cities' ordinances regarding this type of land use.
One other question, if, to find out that kind of information, if we table this tonight, what are the timeframes as far as his application? When would that run out? Because we bring it back in 2 weeks or whatever and approve it at that point.
It would come back.
I mean, but is there a time frame that he, from the time that you make application, there's a time that that zoning request runs out, and I don't remember exactly what that
Oh,
is.
the zoning request? No. As far as the zoning request, his stuff, I don't know. I don't know about his.
Well, I'm not talking about his business, our conditional use permit.
There's not an expiration date.
So if we tabled it tonight, then that would be something to find out more information about it, we could do that.
What I would do, though, I don't know that you have a requirement for this, but I would re-notify the newspaper. Probably wouldn't re-notify the owners, I might, but if it's in a timely way, I could re-notify them, just to let them know it's back, it's tabled and it's back on the agenda on a date certain.
If I'm correct, if I don't mind asking, I'm assuming that's Tanglewood Pharmacy in front of you?
Correct.
And then the Church of Christ across the street, and there's a vacant lot, I guess, at 1320? Isn't that a-
No, so there's a house there.
In 13
There's a lot behind me, 1310.
1310. But I thought that behind the Church of Christ, I guess maybe the lot I'm thinking about is part of their property then, maybe.
It's a really big lot, it goes all the way through to that other.
Okay.
Wood Street.
Okay. And there's a house sitting on that one? Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, other
Mr. Mayor?
questions?
I would just urge the council to not penalize Mr. Aldridge because our zoning ordinances are out of date. It's not his fault. And I do find it ironic that some of my friends here on the council that are against government regulation are here tonight saying that he can't, under a goodwill and good faith effort, sell a few guns a month from his house. To me, that's a Second Amendment issue. If he wants to do that, yeah, he can do that. And if you read in his letter, it says here that this is a supplemental income resulting in very light traffic. So I would urge that we hear from Mr. Aldridge. We can ask him directly. I mean, I don't think he's selling 15, 20 guns a month here, I would guess. So yeah, I think it's a Second Amendment issue, and this is America, and if he wants to do this, and he's gone through the ATF and he's done it the right way, we ought to let him. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember, I think that you've got a valid point, because I think Mr. Aldridge is doing the right thing through the ATF. There may be others that, the ATF is the one that called the city and asked for this verification validation. There may be others out there that have gotten their licenses and haven't gone through the process.
The other questions for Judy? I want to just clarify one point. Do we know whether or not ATF sent this because it was in a multifamily zoning area, or did they know?
They didn't know.
Okay.
The information that came to me through your staff was that
Right.
they didn't know. They were just calling the city simply to validate and verify what the zoning was.
Okay. And then that kicked off our need then to look at the use in an R3 area?
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, one question. Was it your understanding that if he did not have either the correct zoning or the conditional use, that the ATF would not issue the license?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do you know?
I can still, I've already passed all the background checks and everything, I can sell and buy guns, I just cannot do it at this address.
So the ATF is making it conditional on us giving you conditional
Yes.
zoning? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Miller? All right, thank you. All right, this time I'd call anyone that would like to come and speak in favor of the request to Would you like to come forward?
Sure.
You don't have to, but you,
Oh, gosh.
it's your choice.
My name is Nathan Aldridge. I live at 1317 Inglewood. Lived there for about 5 years. Married, have 4 kids. Like I said, I'm just want to do this for supplemental income. It's just another federal license that I feel is going to be harder to get in the future. So I'm just wanting to obtain the license. Like I stated, I just wanted, through word of mouth. People always ask me, hey, can you give me this, or, can you give me this cheaper? I'm just wanting to, just a word of mouth. I don't want a whole bunch of people coming to my house. I
any questions?
I have a couple, Mayor.
All right.
Mr. Aldridge, how many guns do you plan on selling a month, a year out of your home there?
I plan on selling maybe one a week.
How are you planning on advertising your services?
Just word of mouth, friends at work, maybe Facebook.
Would it be fair to say this is, I know a lot of people in this type of business, really they just do it kind of as a buddy deal. Hey, I have
Right,
a buddy,
correct.
come over, I can get you that gun that you want to get.
Right, like I said, that way I can control who actually comes to my house. I don't want to advertise and have a bunch of people who possibly wouldn't even pass a background check come to my house. I want to have faith in the person coming to my house that I already have a relationship with them and feel confident in giving them a gun in my driveway.
Would there be any difference between what you're doing there versus if you were at Pigeon Road and own that operation of Star Arms? I mean, technically you're doing the same thing, correct, under the same license?
Correct. In addition, I will say, this is the legal way to do it. You can go to the flea market and buy a gun on any weekend, they have it,
All the time.
and sell it after you drive. There's no paperwork involved and make 50 or 100 bucks. Like I said, this is just legal way. So I think the license may be harder to get in the future. We'll like to obtain it, just to have it.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Mr. Sedin?
One of the concerns I have, and I know that there's some people in the room that throw political footballs around like the Second Amendment rights get on television. But the point is, when we do a conditional, and this probably should have been a Judy question, is when we do a conditional permit, it's not time limited. And what you were trying to say earlier is we can't limit the condition of what he sells there. So if he sold his house has got a conditional permit, and he could turn it into some other type of business at that point. Is that correct? In an R1, is that right?
It has to fit within the definition of the conditional use permit.
Whatever his condition is, but his condition can't be defined, is what you're saying.
That are stated in zoning.
So,
And I think that would be up for interpretation of this following agreement.
and we'd have to go probably get our lawyer involved in that to make those kind of decisions later. That's my, because we're giving permission for a location to become a business then at that point. Is that correct?
It would go with me. If I moved, then it would not go with that piece of property, the way I was understanding it.
Is that correct?
No.
See, that's my question is,
Randy can answer that.
well, he just did, he said no. And so that's the concern I have. And I'll defer to my P and Z buddy over here.
Okay, so Randy, why don't you just answer that question?
I said no, it will stay with the property. It'll still have that conditional use on it. It'll be R3 with that conditional use. His licenses and things will go with him naturally,
But the zoning won't.
but the zoning will stay with the property.
See, that's where condition could help.
That's what you were trying to say earlier. Had we had that ability, we could say something like that in there. This is limited to what he's going to do, et cetera. Is that correct? And now we can't. If we give him permission, whatever the use is of that special use, anybody else that comes in and buys a house can do that later.
Like any other zone, it's still for the.
Unless we go back and rezone it at that point, he sells the house. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, Mr. Warren, did you have a question or comment?
How much ammunition do you intend to keep?
That's a good question.
Full line?
I don't plan on keeping hardly any ammunition, or just as a as-needed basis. If a customer wants 22 shells and I happen to be able to get some, then I'll order them and sell them. So I don't plan on keeping any inventory of anything in stock.
Can you get 22 shells?
I don't know.
What about 9 millimeter?
I'm running pretty low on.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. McDaniel?
Mr. Aldridge, are you going to be doing other things beside buying, selling, and trading ammunition and guns? For example, are you going to be cleaning guns or repairing guns or any of those things?
No, that falls under, that'd be gunsmithing, and that's a different license. No manufacturing. I can't buy uppers and lowers and assemble them. That's considered manufacturing. That's another license.
So you're just an in and out.
It's in and out.
Okay.
And I can,
When someone calls you or comes to your house by appointment to buy ammunition and guns, by your license, do you have to do a background check on them, or is it the same as if you were at the flea market?
Oh, yeah, you have to, yeah, there's an extensive background check you have to do. There's also another, I believe it's called NICS, 800 number you call, and, you know, it's through all the government ATF.
Okay.
Same as if you were to go to Pigeon Road and fill out the paperwork. Have the forms, same forms, have to keep them on file forever.
Okay. And do you understand the problem that we have here as a governing body, that we don't have the right wording, the right definitions in place at this time to be able to not leave the conditional use on that property for eternity?
I mean, I understand the wording, yes.
How long have you lived there? How long have you lived in that house?
5 years. Previously, I lived out on County Road 256. I've been in Stephenville since '93. I've owned several other businesses in town.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Warren?
I think that's on annual review,
It is?
Russ, isn't it?
It's what on that?
Annual review of the.
On that conditional
land.
use? I don't think so, Jerry, but I'd have to check it to be sure.
No, there's no annual review.
Not that I know of. It would be in when we described the conditional use, it would be in there, and I took a look at it, and I didn't see any kind of an audit or any kind of time limits. So I'm almost sure I could tell you no, there's not
Any other questions? Okay, I got one, hopefully quick question. Where, federally and state law, where can you legally have a sale today? Can you, like, order a
If I had
gun?
a FFL license
Right.
at my residence, or if I opened a retail business,
Okay.
I can't go to Walmart and do an exchange. I can't do like a sale in the Walmart parking lot or anything like that.
Right, okay. All right,
I think that FFL, if I remember correctly, is tied to a specific address. Is that correct?
Right, yes.
And what you're gonna do basically is what I'd call a transfer. If I wanted to call you and say, I want a Remington 725-06, and you ordered it for me, and then you'd
Correct.
transfer it in, I would fill out the appropriate paperwork, you'd do the background check, I would pay you.
Correct.
Basically, that would just pass through your hands to mine.
Correct, yes. And
Okay.
in addition to that, I could also, if your kinfolk in the coast wanted to order one for me, I could mail it to another FFL dealer, and I would still handle all the paperwork and keep the records on file.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else wishing to come and speak in favor of the request? Okay, anyone wishing to come and speak in opposition of the request? Okay. Then at this time, I will close the public hearing and open the floor to discussion.
I think this fellow probably has the stuff that he says he has, you know, but I suggested we see those licenses, you know, before we get the permit, you know, to do this. So.
Mayor, my concern isn't the product that he's selling. My concern is the longevity of taking a house in R3. I assume it's R3, is that correct? Multifamily, I can't see that far.
It's a single-family house in
In
an
R3.
R3
That it
district.
becomes then a retail entity in that environment when he leaves. His business is not my concern, it's the longevity of that application, which I was hoping you were right, Jerry, that every year you have to renew it or something. That'd be a great thing. I mean, that's my only concern, not as the type of practice he's in, except especially after what Alan asked him about how is he gonna be storing, or you also, Jerry, storing ammunition, et cetera.
Okay. And I know that this this is a question that probably can't be answered here tonight, but I wonder how many licensed gun dealers there are in the city of Stephenville today.
That aren't registered here with us.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like Amy
So-
Kay or what are those people sell out of their house?
Mary
Right.
Kay.
Mary Kay, there you go. You can tell I buy a lot, you can tell I buy a lot from my
MEK,
wife.
MEK, very, very good. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
stepped in that one.
Judy, I have a question real quick. Under our ordinances, do we deviate between retail and businesses? I mean, is there deviation there? Okay. Okay, okay, it's just, conditional use is a business for an R1, but does it define business or retail? Okay. Is that,
Mayor, while she's looking that up, can I make some comments?
Sure.
I agree with Doug that it's not the issue of the line of business, it's the location being forever branded with that type of use. And in addition to that, we don't have the right definitions in our zoning ordinance to speak to the conditions such as signage restrictions, hours of operation, and type of traffic issues that it might create. It's very problematic. I am a conservative. I am pro-gun. I am pro-life, and you're not going to take my Bibles away either. But there's just, the conditions aren't right to be able to approve this tonight, Mayor, and I would move to table it so that we can begin getting the right wording in our statutes and ordinances so that this can be properly addressed in the near future.
I second.
I got another question.
Okay, well, we've got a motion on the floor,
You need to make a motion.
and I've got so it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel to table the consideration of the ordinance, and a second by Mr. Warren, and I'll open it up for discussion.
Mayor, is it possible after we table this and reconsider it to retroactively change the conditions that he made this application under?
That was my question.
Well, I think we need to ask Judy that question,
Or maybe Randy?
or Randy.
At worst, he'd have to reapply. I, just offhand, I think this application would do, even if we change the zoning or amended our zoning ordinance. But the worst thing for him would be just have to reapply, which that doesn't sound to me to be would bother him too much.
Randy, do you know if there was a fee for his application on this?
I do not.
Okay. Judy, do you know if there was a fee for his application? Okay. But as a city council, when he reapplies, we can waive the fee if we choose, right? For his reapplication, allow him to come a second time at the cost of the original one. Thank you.
Right.
Mayor,
Right, Mr. Hogan.
can I ask, maybe Mr. Warren can answer this. When's the last time we did a thorough look at our zoning ordinances and revamped them? I mean, how long has it been? Does anyone know? When's the last time we took a look at our zoning ordinances and made changes?
I was on P and Z for 9 years, and I don't remember any big changes in that.
So my concern is, we're gonna make Mr. Aldridge wait for us to go through this comprehensive zoning ordinance revamp, and we hadn't done it in 9 years, so he's gonna have to sit around for how long for us to do this? And I just think it's the wrong thing. I'm not throwing political footballs, I'm trying to do what's right. And he's obviously applied for everything that he had to do. I mean, do you think a criminal selling guns out of their house is gonna come here and do all this? No. Seems like he's a level-headed guy, he's trying to do the right thing, he's got a family, he's trying to make some income on the side. And I just don't think it's our role to tell him that he can't do that, and I think that we're making the wrong move here, and I'm gonna vote against the motion to table.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I
Yeah,
got two
Mr.
questions.
Pendleton.
Two questions on the table. In our ordinances, either for Judy or Randy, number one, is there, if by the council's action of tabling it, is there not a provision in there that if the council takes no action, that it's automatically allowed? Is that correct or not? Do we know? Okay. You know, Randy, if the council takes no action on this, I don't know if table is no action or not, but the council does not take action tonight, is his application automatically approved?
No,
That's incorrect, okay, not under our ordinances?
not if you table it.
Okay, and then if we deny his application, do we have a ban in our ordinances that he's prohibited for like 90 days of reapplying or something like that?
I don't know, I don't think so.
Okay.
They're not, I don't know for sure. Don't remember.
I was talking about, I didn't know under our ordinances, if we denied his application today, if he was banned for, say, 90 days from reapplying for the conditional use. Okay, we don't have that in our ordinances, okay.
How long would it take to modify that particular part? If we took the P and Z committee to focus on just fixing that issue, how long would that take?
6 weeks. If the P and Z does due diligence and.
So it starts at P and Z. Okay.
So we could theoretically bring it to the December council
Correct.
meeting.
That's if everything works.
And when's that council meeting? Is that in time to get in front of Christmas orders? It's gonna be the first week of December.
Notice she said if everything
Go
works,
ahead.
goes smoothly. which
Judy,
it
one more
normally
question
doesn't,
for you.
so.
And I guess maybe I should review our ordinances a little more. But we don't have, under our ordinances, allow for the council to put conditional uses on conditional use permits? Huh, that's strange, okay.
I know.
I just wanna make sure I was hearing that right.
We have the right to do that, but not without it being posted and voted on, in a regular meeting, stated and posted.
So let me ask then, does that mean that we could put it tonight, table his request, do that tonight, make public notice, and in 2 weeks vote for it then? Make a conditional use for that location?
Why does the public notice have to be for that purpose? Because we're actually considering this property, and this would be an action that's an extension of that.
One thing's gotta go through our P and Z.
It has to. It's not just public notice, it's P and Z as well,
And public notice there, and then public notice back here.
which is the 6 weeks thing you're talking about.
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
And since obviously we can change zoning, applications come in all the time to change zonings to different usages. Once we've attached this zoning, there's no way that the council can then revoke it, should he sell his house? Or
No,
would
we
we
can't.
vote to reverse it?
It's a fallacy to say that we can't, but the council would have to take the action, and I don't think this council has ever done it. This Stephenville City Council, and I mean, for a long time, nobody's ever done it, but it is a fallacy to say that the city cannot go back in and change the zoning on a particular piece of property.
Without it going through P and Z, I mean, the council could just bring it up itself.
I'm gonna hedge on you there. It may have to go through P and Z first, but you can recommend it through P and Z, and they can come with a recommendation. I kinda think it has to go through P and Z. As I say, we've never done it, but to say the city council can't, let's say that you put the conditional use on that R3 tonight, and this gentleman moved out, somebody came in there and did something that you were totally against, the council has the right to go back in and change it. Now,
We do.
Yes, the procedure to do that, I'm not sure of. As I say,
But it's theoretically possible that we could.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that we gave him permission tonight to do that. My guess, he looks like a real honest guy. If we give him permission, then we go back and change and create conditional uses. Can we at that point define it for his location to be more specific at a later date?
No, we can't make it retroactive.
That's
on
the
that.
other problem.
Not if you approve it tonight. You'll approve it under the application he made and under the conditions he applied for.
He'd be grandfathered in, basically.
Yes, ma'am. That's what it says.
Yeah. Judy, you want to say something?
City attorney. Of course, the council has the authority to initiate rezoning or anything in the zoning ordinance themselves.
Say that last part.
Someone's private property, we can just go out and
But
rezone
not
it
without- Well, but not without
hostilely.
all kinds of public hearings and public notification, et cetera, notification to people. But you have the ability to initiate rezoning.
Well, we've been told for years that
So we could initiate, if a year from now, we can come back and say, we're gonna rezone that to something else that we've called it something else at some later date, that would be acceptable to him, but would be more acceptable to us as a council for what that use is now location.
So that course of action then would look tonight, something like us as a council taking an action out of here through Planning and Development Committee. I would take it to look at that zoning and then bring it back to the council.
And then I guess we could then initiate a rezoning of his property then to whatever we want conditionally done. And I'm
Right.
assuming you wouldn't fight that.
It's not a rezoning, though. This is a conditional use, right?
That's a misnomer.
It's
Okay,
not a
then
zoning.
explain what
change.
that means then, Judy. If you don't mind, did you explain what that means?
Right. Just
Conditional
explain
use.
to us again the conditional use.
Well, there's rezoning, and then the ordinance is set up to allow certain, and again, we need some work on the definition of home occupation. Certain things as a home occupation under conditional use, but it's not a rezoning. The overall base rezoning stays the same, just you add a layer of a special use.
So we can go back and
I
issue.
like to call it special use. Maybe that's more understandable. So it's just, you're not rezoning it, you're just, and that's where I think it would be good to have these conditions. The ordinance allows conditions.
So Doug, your question earlier was if this was approved tonight, could we go back and place conditions that
Yes.
are more restrictive on the property?
Yes.
Could that be done? If we approve this tonight, could the council come back at a later point and approve conditions?
Well,
Not as long as he has ownership of the property.
You don't have a basis for that in the zoning ordinance.
Number one, not on this property. You can place those conditions on R3 conditional uses, which is household occupation, is that what this is called?
Home occupation.
Home
Home
occupation.
occupation.
But they will not be effective against this man if you pass them without, if you pass his request now where those conditions are not in he'll be judged by the way
Previously.
basically the law is now.
But we could initiate a request to rezone it back to what it was.
No, revoke the conditional use. It's not rezoning.
Okay, it's revoke the conditional use.
Right. I guess revoke would be the correct term.
And we,
And that's the wording we don't have at this time.
Reassign,
Yes.
just reassign and redo conditions
Right.
under the federal ordinance.
Which we could do.
Exactly.
Right.
that's all I can
Okay. So let me attempt to summarize what was just said. No, I really don't want to do that, but I feel it's necessary because we need to go ahead and proceed to vote on the motion that's on the floor, and that is to table the ordinance. But we just heard that the conditional use, if it were issued, could be, do I use the word revoke or modified?
Reheard, you could rehear it.
Reheard at a future point to modify the conditional use of that property. And that is an action that would go through planning and zoning and then back to the council. And that conditional use could be completely different in its verbiage than what exists today.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Then, I guess let's proceed to vote on the motion to table. And just say all those in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No. Division?
Okay, so we're gonna, let's vote by roll call.
No.
Place two,
Or no what?
to
No
table.
on the motion to table.
Most of the tables where we're going back.
No on the motion to table. Place one.
Yep, I'll wait for him to.
How did Boyd vote?
It's your turn.
No,
Boyd.
so
Yes,
Doug,
yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
place three,
I'm saying no.
place four,
Yes.
place five,
No.
place six,
No.
place seven,
No.
place eight.
Yes.
Okay, that's, the motion is not tabled. This fails. The motion to table fails, and so I'll reopen discussion
Mayor,
and consider a motion. Mr. Hogan.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 2014-24.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hogan, seconded by Mr. Pendleton to approve ordinance 2014-24 as presented. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to speak on it, and I see Mr. Warren will too. I won't be supporting this. This is putting the cart in front of the horse. It is reckless endangerment, and I won't have any part of it. If you're gonna do it, you need to do it right. You need to have the right wording in your ordinance. This isn't about his product. This is about handling it the proper way. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yo,
Mr. Warren, I'm sorry.
I've probably got more guns than this young man has. I don't have any problem with the product. It's just, when do we stop on retail business in a residential area? Okay, we do this and it kind of opens the door for our neighbors to apply for some kind of retail business.
Right.
So, we've got tons of commercial buildings vacant. I'm not saying you need to go rent one, but, I just don't think it's good to put business in residential areas.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm like Jerry, I probably got more guns than he does. And I've got a concealed handgun license. And I participate in cowboy fast draw with revolvers.
Shoot anybody?
That's it. Okay. But I don't like the idea of somebody just saying that they've applied for a bunch of stuff and we don't see their certificates. I'd like to see those before I voted on it. I think he probably has them, but I'd just like to see it. Well, he actually doesn't say he has them, he says he's applied for them.
Okay.
There's one more question.
Mr. Pendleton.
Judy, I hate to put you on the spot again, but I don't know why I'm struggling with this so much, but correct me, the problem with this right now in our conditional use is under our ordinances, the council, we have conditional uses, but we as a council cannot put conditions upon those uses, correct? That's the problem. So typically, if we had a conditional use or a specific use permit, we as a council could say it's good for a year, if that's a condition we want to place. I mean, it's pretty open to protect
Good until
the welfare of the public and all kinds of stuff.
Good until sale of the property or what, yeah.
But at this point, we, as a council, because our ordinances do not allow us to put conditions on conditional use permits. Okay, so I thought, just want to make sure.
And someone asked the question about the retail definition, et cetera. There's really no definition.
There is none,
in
okay.
the-
Just business, and that's the only definition we have,
It
home
says-
business.
Yeah, it speaks to it says professional, it doesn't even have a definition for what it's talking about in that. So we need to kind of clean it all. But it speaks to the home occupation, it says dwelling involving conduct of retail business. There is not a definition in here about retail business. And there is no definition, it goes on to say occupation to be conducted in the building which is used by the occupant. Home occupation such shall include professional services, doesn't even say what those are. So, you just need clarity in your ordinance so that there's no ambiguity.
Okay. Other comments?
Judy, do
Mr.
you know if
Singh.
is there a, I'll ask you, is there a home at 1313? Between you and Tanglewood? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the point that you made earlier was a very good one. Why in the world do we have a bunch of R1 houses sitting in an R3 zone? That doesn't make much sense either.
You know, that's something you could look at in the future.
It's just, you know, R3 typically is people coming and going, and a retail business wouldn't be as much concerned to be in an R3, in a typical R3, because it's a bunch of apartments and whatever, people come and go.
You could look at proper zoning for these communities here.
All right. Mr. Warren?
Well, the zoning ordinance went in, the way I understand it, in the fifties. And from Long Street to South Loop, all those residences in there, single family, were there then, including my old house. But it was zoned R3. Nobody knows why.
And I think now it automatically goes R1, which is the most restrictive until we change it. Because that was part of the issue with all that property up and down Pecan Hill Drive and all the frontage issues, you know, before the fire station lot was purchased and so on. So all that stuff becomes R1 automatically now until someone asks for something different. So that may have happened in the 50s, like you said, but I think now it's automatically R1. If we annex something tonight, I believe it goes R1 automatically until
No.
we do it otherwise.
It comes in unzoned, the city has 6 months to zone it.
Okay.
And what has happened in the past, like Green Acres,
Mhm.
those people weren't notified that they could come.
And argue about it being that, whatever that
and
size
ask
is.
for residential estates, which they should have done.
That's true, they should have.
So the 6 months petered out.
And they just
was
became
zoned
R1.
R1.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
stand
That's
corrected
what
then.
happened. There's been
It's
a
just-
failure on the part of
Okay, so,
City
did you have another question? All right.
I have one final comment, Mayor, if I
All
may.
right. All right.
One thing that hadn't been discussed too is, like I said, I don't have a problem with Mr. Aldridge's business, but he's gonna be allowed to put a sign up in his front yard, and there may be people out there that are in the neighborhood that are gonna be putting their house on the market. And it could adversely affect the value of their homes, because there is a segment of the population out there that don't wanna live across the street or next door or 4 houses down from an arms dealer. That needs to be a consideration too. That's why we have zoning. That's why we have uses within those zonings. I don't know how many in the audience would mind having an arms dealer next door with a sign in his yard. I don't know that the CAD would drop the valuation on what they have on your property, but I feel that the market value of it would probably be adversely affected. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, one thing that just before we vote, I want to ask the council to consider, and then we'll talk about it after the vote, but I think that we have an obligation to review the ordinance in the specific area that we've talked about tonight and hold ourselves to the first week in December council meeting to have a modification to this area of the zoning ordinance in place as soon as possible. And I think that would, in some ways, address both concerns of what I've heard tonight from the council. So, with that, let's proceed to vote. All those in favor of considering approval of ordinance 2014-24 to allow a conditional use of home occupation for Lot 2 in the south 50 feet of Lot 3, Block 1, Dell Avenue North Addition, located at 1317 Inglewood, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
All right, that motion carries as presented. All right, before we leave the planning and zoning section, I will ask for the record that the Planning and Development Committee, the topic be referred to the Planning and Development Committee to look at necessary modifications to the zoning ordinance for conditional use related to this action with I don't know if we can suspense ourselves, but we will, for the December council meeting. And ask that be brought forward to the council for that meeting.
Can you send me an email on that?
I'll do that.
I'll send you a text. How about
All right.
that? You ought to do that.
Okay. And I want to thank the council for the discussion on this issue, and let's commit tonight to getting this cleaned up so we don't have this situation in the future. All right. With that, we will move on to the proposal for contract with Trinkle Rollins and Associates to provide plans and specs for a waterline relocation project. And
Mayor, excuse me,
Yep.
the city secretary just passed me a note and asked, she needs a count on who voted how on that last motion. I think I know.
no, we don't. It was passed by,
5-3.
no, we're not, it was not, it was, the motion carried.
I don't think you need it.
No, you don't. The
Well,
motion carried.
The reason I'm saying it, I think legally you're probably right. However, don't you require her to put that in your
No,
records?
no, we do not.
You don't, that's fine.
So this isn't, we need to get away from counting votes, and we need to get on with the business of the city.
I was just trying to help.
And I appreciate that. So when a motion is brought forth and there's a voice call, do they issue a tally in the state legislature? No, they don't.
They do not.
Okay, so we're no different. The next item then is the engineering services, and I'll ask, Pat, do you want to brief that, or just go ahead and let Nick?
We'll have Nick come up.
Okay. All right, thank you.
In your agenda packet, what you have before you is a proposal from Triple Rollins and Associates to provide engineering services and design survey for a project to provide relocation of 2 water lines currently located underneath the West End Cemetery. Everybody hear me okay?
Mine's not working.
You gotta talk a little louder.
Okay.
Sorry, not working.
Well, we'll just do it without the mic.
There you go.
There you go.
What you've got is a proposal to provide professional engineering services. That includes the design engineering and the design surveying for a project to relocate 2 water lines currently located. There should be a map. Maybe there's not. In your agenda packet.
There is.
Currently located underneath the West End Cemetery. It's on page 10 of your agenda packet. The fee is set out as $16,000 for design engineering and $2,000 for design survey, which is estimated at approximately 10-12% of the total estimated project cost, which is appropriate for this type of project. On page 9, you see the proposal from Mr. Lakeview with Triple Rollins that sets out a proposal that we use with the standard contract that has been in place since about 1997. On page 10 is a map showing the 2 lines that will be relocated. One is identified as a 12-inch line, and while we know that the location is approximately correct, it's not a 12-inch line, it's an 8-inch line. That 8-inch line runs from our railroad well, which is at the corner of the railroad tracks and Lily, and that runs all the way to the Garfield pump station. The other line that you see there is a 14-inch transmission line. That line originally came from the Alexander well field and went all the way to the Garfield pump station. So it's connected directly from the wells to the pump station. And when the Lillian pump station was constructed, that line was converted into a transmission line. So that is a treated water line, whereas the other line from railroad wells is a well line or a raw water line.
It's confusing.
I will say that the line that carries the water from the railroad well is under approximately 15 to 30 pounds of pressure, so not a lot, although the other line is under somewhere between 100 and 125 pounds. So.
Which line is under that
The 14-inch
pressure?
line that you see here.
Okay.
You'll also note that I said it's a concrete line, and as far as I know, there's only one place in the nation that I know of that can make a repair on a concrete line. And so we feel like this project is extremely critical.
So just for clarification, Nick, we're looking at the map, and you've got a line that says 12-inch that's there by the Long Street.
Correct.
And then there's 6-inch that is at the, it looks like it's an intersection
That's a sewer line, Mayor.
between, okay. So
Correct.
that's the
That green line is a 6-inch
sewer line, right. So the blue line that goes across the cemetery is the 14-inch line that you're talking about.
That's
Okay,
correct.
all right. Any other questions for Nick?
Project being funded how? Out of your budget?
There have been funds set aside in this fiscal year budget.
So it's in-
172 of the budget.
So it's in your
How much
budget
this
line?
project.
May I have some questions for Mr. Williams?
Okay, go ahead.
Nick, can you tell us the history of these lines that need to be relocated because they run through a cemetery? Tell us approximately how long ago they were put there, where they carry water to, and I'm real confused. I don't know who in the right mind would put water or sewer lines through a cemetery. It doesn't make sense.
It wasn't then.
The lack of planning and vision is my opinion. Could you address those issues? I know it wasn't you, I know it wasn't us, but why would somebody run utility lines underground through a cemetery knowing that at some time in the future, they'd have problems and that would have to be addressed?
Well, while we don't know the exact age of those lines, we do know that concrete lines and this other line from the railroad well were probably put in the 60s. So we think they're well over 50 years old. And we're also most certain that the lines were installed prior to that being a cemetery. Now, mapping was not very current or up to date in those days. So what we feel like is people just didn't know the lines were there. And this is a project to take care of that problem.
You're saying that the lines were put underground there before it was designated as a cemetery?
It would be very difficult to put them in afterwards, yes, sir.
There are gravestones in the cemetery that are from the 1800s, and the pipeline is 50-plus years old.
At least.
That's another area of the cemetery though, Russ. They're down there closer to the east end of the cemetery.
Right,
It's a
it
much
wasn't the
older area.
developed area at the time they buried the
Right,
pipes.
Right, before they buried anything else.
Where does the water go to?
Let me look at the map here. What is labeled as a 12-inch line, again, is an 8-inch line. That's a raw water line that comes from the railroad well at Lillian and the railroad tracks going to the Garfield pump station. The 14-inch line runs from the Lillian pump station and goes into the distribution system itself. It does connect to the Garfield pump station, however. It is a pressurized line.
Okay. And that's a lot of pressure for a water line. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I'll consider a motion. Go ahead, Sherry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, because I'm not real good at reading these. But we are talking about these two lines here.
Correct.
Being moved to these two lines here.
We're going to relocate them
Or
closer
relocate them to this
to what you see there as an 8-inch sewer line. And then reconnect them closer to where the fence is.
Okay,
Well,
We're just going to get them out from
a version of
where they are currently.
okay, so,
I hadn't moved the current part.
okay, so these are gonna be extended down
Yes.
this way, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Nix?
Mr. Williams, there's not gonna be any other easements or right-of-ways or any other, property acquisitions to do this, correct?
It will all be performed with the existing right-of-way, correct?
Okay, and we will reconnect these over on what I would consider to be the north side of our property, and then they will continue to run at that point under Carlton's property, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Nick.
Mayor, I move that we approve the contract with Strickle Rollins to begin work on the relocation of these two lines.
Second.
Case been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. Sveen to approve the proposal as presented for the West End Waterline Relocation Project. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries, unanimous vote. And then we'll move next to consider approving members of the annexation committee. And
Mayor, back on September the 2nd, at the regular council meeting, the membership of the annexation committee was approved. There was 2 members from Planning and Zoning Commission elected, 2 from Stedco, 2 from the Erath County Builders Association, 1 from Tarleton, 2 from the Planning and Development Committee, 2 local business owners, and 1 from Stephenville ISD. Staff sent out letters to each of these entities and received nominations back from them. And we have from Planning and Development, Jerry Warren, Russ McDaniel, the Planning and Zoning Commission, Janet Whitley and Richard Petronis, Stedco, Meta Collier and Nathan Heller, the Erath County Builders Association, David Baskett and Seth Moore, independent business owners, Greg Bruner and Steve Patterson. From Tarleton, we have Kent Styron, and from Stephenville ISD, we have Kathy Haynes. I believe Councilman McDaniel also wanted Judy added to that committee as well.
Yes, may I comment on that, Mayor?
yeah, go ahead.
In our original committee meeting, we had asked Ryan Norton to serve on it because of his expertise. And I would like to have Director Judy Miller added to this committee because she, according to her resume, has a vast experience in this area and is very knowledgeable and would be a great asset to this committee. So, pending further discussion, Mayor, I move approval of the annexation committee as shown with the addition of Director Miller.
Do I have a second? Mr. Warren? Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Warren to approve the committee as presented on page 15 with the addition of Judy Miller. And I'll open up for discussion now. I've got one citizen request for comment on this topic, so would you like to come forward at this time?
My name is Mark Wallace, and I live at 1402 Northdale Avenue. And in regards to the newly formed annexation committee, I would like to request that 2 community members be added to the committee that are not business owners or affiliated with the entities that make up the committee. 2 community members should be included, 1 who has been previously annexed and 1 from the extraterritorial jurisdiction. These members would be able to give valuable information and insight to future annexation planning. I would appreciate their input as well as your consideration of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I was gonna,
I do too.
gonna say I support the idea.
Okay. So,
Do we have the ability, Counselor, to just add 2 positions there to be appointed at a later time?
Yeah.
Then
we
that-
could,
then
we
I
could be
would-
fancy and we could amend the motion, or we can
I
just
was
say.
asking permission first. So I would like to, is that time to do that? To amend the motion to put 2 positions on there for someone from the extraterritorial jurisdiction and someone who's been through annexation in the last 5 years, 10 years.
5 years,
5 years would be fine.
10 years?
Either
5
one,
years.
I don't care. 5 years.
And this, okay, it's been moved by Mr. Sveen, seconded by Ms. Zachary to amend the motion to add community members, 1 from a previous annexation and 1 from a citizen from the ETJ. That amends the main motion that includes the names as presented and with the addition of Judy Miller as a director position. Any discussion on that?
Mayor, I have a question. How do we advertise for the 2 additional spots on the 13-member committee as it is, to let the public know they can apply, and what timeline are we working on. We've already gone 35 days since the committee met, and time is of the essence with this. I'd just like to have a plan if we're going to add to the 13-member committee.
Okay, it's a good point, and I think that we would need to expedite that, maybe with the process in hand to take requests, for that, and then select from that, just like we would any other board or commission. Does that seem appropriate?
Would we be able to fast track that and let the interim city administrator make the 2 picks so we don't have to wait until the council or their committee meets again, please?
Well, that's how this has worked to date, so I guess we could proceed with that same process.
Very good.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the amendment as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so that amendment is approved. Now we'll consider the motion, the main motion as amended to approve the annexation committee as presented with the addition of Judy Miller and now community members that includes a member from a previous annexed area and an ETJ, a citizen from the ETJ area. Any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, that motion carries as presented. And I just want to say that I think this is a very important milestone for us as a council to look at this issue in the comprehensive manner that we are. And I appreciate the work that has gone in to get these organizations to get people to volunteer to participate. And I think that with the, as someone once said, the counsel of many leads to good decisions. So this will be able to look at the problem from very different perspectives, and with that, bring to us recommendations that have been vetted through a diverse group. So thank you for that. All right, with that, then we'll move on to, Chief, I wish that it would rain so that this emergency funding for a roof replacement, we're not going to scare the rain off by approving this, are we? I hope not. Okay, so let's move on to the next agenda item, which is to approve emergency funding for a roof replacement at the public safety building.
I'm going to ask Chief King to explain.
Okay.
the situation of that.
You going to give us a rain forecast?
I hope it's gonna lay off for a few days. Mayor, council, as we put in the memo, I guess the last time it did rain happened to be around the time that we were doing a radio project at the office. And so we had folks on the building looking at the antenna up there and took some pictures. And I'm not a roofing guy, but I was discussing some of those antenna issues with Director Williams, and those pictures that you have in the agenda packet, he helped point out to me that the roof was in pretty bad shape. And we knew we had some issues with it. There's several places, or 2 or 3 places in the building that leak every time it rains, and we've tried to get them fixed, and there just hadn't been any fixes to it. But I was supplied with the name of DK Haney. They did the wastewater treatment plant building a few years ago, and they came out and did the analysis that each of you have, and they pretty much told us that the public safety building's in a pretty dire situation, and we need to get it replaced as soon as possible. So we're recommending using them and their style of roofing, which would be to remove that existing tar and gravel roof and then replace it with the Duralast membrane roof.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Sveen?
Are we gonna remove the other stuff on the roof, which is nothing more, go back to what Russ said earlier about planting water lines. A flat roof is a place looking to leak. So how do you, are we gonna remove some of those things that are up there now that are causing penetrations?
Actually, as part of the radio to the antenna project, we're gonna be moving some bigger ones off of the roof over to the ground anyway. And then, as we found out, there are several that have, God only knows how long they've been up there, and they're not used anymore. So they're gonna be removed, and yes, sir, that'll all come off. They're gonna be a lot cleaner. And then as I understand it, these membrane roofs are, pretty much impermeable to water.
Anytime there's a penetration, there's a place to leak.
Right, but, the couple that remain up there, and I don't think there are pictures of them. Actually, there are. In the top picture that you have, you see a couple of, kind of dish antennas up there. Those will have to stay up there, but if you'll notice how they're held down with the cinder blocks, and that is actually.
So it's not a penetration, it's just.
Not a penetration, and that is actually the code way of anchoring those down.
Okay. But all the penetrations, you think, other than the air conditioner, is gonna be moved?
That's correct, and then
Okay.
all that will be reclassed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right, then I'd consider a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of the request for replacement of the roof on the public safety building as outlined in page 16 and 17 of our agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Hogan to approve the emergency funding for roof replacement on the public safety building as presented. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries, approved as presented.
Mayor, I might make one comment on that.
Okay.
When we come up with an emergency issue like this, it is nice to have money in reserves. I know that there's been questions about keeping money in reserves and why so much and why this, but it certainly is beneficial when we have an issue like this to be able to deal with it efficiently and in a timely manner like we did tonight, because those monies are there.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, then we'll move now to a report and a recommendation from the Public Health and Safety Committee. So, Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 9th and September 16th, the Public Health and Safety Committee met, which consists of myself, Jerry Warren, and Brady Pendleton. We were tasked with the challenge of redoing and refining and shortening a 1986 taxi cab ordinance, which was still on the books. This was brought to us by Mr. Getz, who is in the business and is ready to operate within the city. And we met and entertained questions from the entire council, from Mr. Getz, and all this was occurred on 2 occasions. We came up with the final version, dropping from about 20 pages down to 5 or 6 that deal with the important issues such as city liability and background checks and the things that we felt were important that we have on the books and be updated from 1986. And at this time, I would move approval of the ordinance as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Hogan to consider approval of ordinance 2014-25, amending the taxi cab ordinance as presented in our agenda packet. Any discussion? Ms. Zachary.
Yes, I would just like to express the fact that I have quite a few concerns about the ordinance. I do feel it opens the city to a lot of liability. I feel that it does not address new technology, actually creates a new criminal act that we have no way of enforcing, which is the Uber taxi service. I feel that even though we have the disclaimer that the citizens who engage the taxis will do so at their own risk, that by us taking on the responsibility of dealing with complaints and also with background checks, that we are in a sense warranting to the citizens any taxi service that opens up. And keeping track as to whether the taxi service continues to maintain its liability insurance. You can show a certificate of liability insurance one day and cancel your insurance the next. There's no mechanism for addressing that. I think if we implement most of these things, we are obligating the city to spend some time managing a taxi business. And so those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, if there are none, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approval of ordinance 2014-25, amending the taxi cab ordinance as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
All right, so that motion carries. The ordinance 2014-25 is approved. All right, next, Public Works Committee report. Mr. Nix.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 16th, the Public Works Committee met with myself, Mr. Wagner, Mr. Pendleton, and Ms. Zachary present. The subject for that meeting that night was a contract renewal with OMI. OMI currently operates our wastewater treatment plant. They are in charge of the day-to-day operation of that, and they have been since 1996, I believe. As a part of their contract, each year they come to us with an opportunity or an option to renew and also to change those rates based on a CPI adjustment annually. Also, there are some other fixed costs for sludge hauling and chemicals that are a part of that at the same time that we review annually. At the same time, we're reviewing the CPI increase. Also, as another part of the contract this year, OMI has been in discussion with Mr. Williams to install 2 generators at our wastewater treatment plant. The first generator would be at the headworks where all of the discharge from the city comes into the plant. It's the lowest spot in the plant, and then from there, the discharge is pumped to the upper levels of the plant for the treatment process. If there is a power outage, and we've had some power outages in the past, that becomes a problem because the natural flow continues to bring it in, but we have nowhere that we can go with it. And we have dual service from electrical providers out there, but we found out kind of by accident when their service went out that they both come from the same substation. So having dual service did not provide that safety valve that we had hoped to find there. The first generator would provide the power to pump that discharge from the city up to the upper levels of the plant. The second generator would provide the ability for the operators of the plant at that time, after it has gone through the plant process, to treat that discharge before it is discharged into the river. OMI has offered to do this, both of the generators they will install at cost, to be spec'd by Mr. Williams, to be under his control as far as the equipment and the installation. They will do it at cost of materials and labor. They will finance each of these for a term of 60 months. Better back up, 60 months each. The first of these, if the council approves this, would go online in January of 2015. The second would be January 2016. And as a part of the contract that you have in front of you, we would have an early renewal for our contract, which would extend this contract to the year 2021. After discussion with the council and the fact that they would do this installation at cost and finance it for the city at 0 interest for that 60 months on each generator, it was the recommendation of the committee that we approve this contract renewal with OMI. And I would at this time make that motion that we approve the contract renewal and extension with OMI.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. Pendleton to approve the amendment to the contract with CH2M Hill OMI as presented. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Mr. Sveen.
It probably is a Nick question. I'll ask the council member, and he can defer if he wants to. We discussed putting 2 generators in our budget this year. Did we do that?
No, sir.
Why did we not put it in our budget? Why was it not a priority?
Funding is not available.
Okay, that's my question.
Okay, any other questions? I had one question that the CPI rate increase, the CPI is hovering around 1.8%. And somehow due to some fancy math, in this adjustment, it's double that rate, 3.66. So I see the calculation, but I don't understand why we're willing to accept a CPI that we ourselves don't recognize for cost growth and cost increases in today's financial climate. So why is it okay for us to give a contractor a CPI double the rate that we give ourselves?
I don't know that it's okay to do it, but that has been the process since 1996. So if we would like to change it, then certainly at our leisure to do so. I can tell you that I do endorse this contract, and if we were going to change that, I would recommend we do that next year so that we can get the generators in this year.
Right.
But I understand your question.
Okay.
It's simply straight from the calculation in the contract.
Okay, well, maybe that's something within both the Finance Committee and the Public Works we could look at, because, I mean, CPI is what we're using for cost growth, so it seems like we ought to ask our contractors to do the same. Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the amendment to the contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so that motion carries, unanimous vote. And I guess one more thing, I want to, Mr. Nix and Mr. Nick, I'd like to thank y'all for, I mean, this is an innovative way to get those generators in here. And I really appreciate y'all thinking outside the box and finding a way for us to get that done, because I know it's something we've struggled with in past budgets, so that's great to see.
And I appreciate that, and I would like to thank the representatives from OMI, because they have worked with us. Mr. Johnny Davis and Mr. Chris Parker are here in the audience tonight. I would like to acknowledge them and their help and their cooperation in this, the ongoing operation of the plant, but in this specific instance especially, they helped us come up with an opportunity for us to make our service more viable, and at the same time continue to help us with the operations out there.
Right, and that's great, and I agree, Alan, and, you know, this also speaks to the importance of us understanding new ways, or ways people are finding to do things with some innovative thoughts that we can reap the benefits of. So thanks for bringing that to us and for us taking it, so that's great. All right, now we'll move to the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda, even though it is lengthy. Full approval of all items as presented.
Second. Okay. It's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Nix to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? I will say one thing. I saw Dr. Fain is here tonight, and the Optimist Club has been a great partner with the city for many years, and within the consent agenda is a cost share to construct a shade structure at the Optimist J.C. Park over some of the playground areas. And, you know, just like other community partners that have helped us improve our parks, this is another example of that happening. So thank you for that.
Can I comment?
Yes, sir.
You know, Dr. Fain is somebody that hides from notoriety, and I appreciate that about his humbleness. But the city of Stephenville would be a much worse place without the work that he's done for our community, especially through the Optimist Club Stephenville. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. All right, with that, let's proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so the consent agenda is approved as Joe Coote presented. All right.
Joe, when we need you.
Now we'll move on to the comments by the city administrator.
Very briefly, Mayor, October 14th will be a work session with the Public Works Committee to discuss tapping fees. That same night, the Public Health and Safety Committee will also meet to discuss a possible smoking ordinance and update the parking ordinance as well. October 16th, there will be a work session where we'll have a presentation on economic development from Mr. Jeff Moore, Attorney Jeff Moore out of Dallas, that Mr. Wagner recommended. And last thing I have, just a reminder, October 31st, which is a Friday night, the Safe Trick or Treat will be down here on the square. That's normally been done in the afternoons, and this year that is being moved from 5 to 7 p.m. That's all I have.
Okay, so the time for that is 5 to 7.
5 to 7.
Trunk or treat. Great. Great thing there. Okay, so on the presentation on economic development, that's going to be an open meeting, so, but it will be a work session on the 16th next week. And I guess we're going to look to understand more about what some of the structure is tied to economic development when we meet that night. Okay? All right, council members, comments, Mr. Hogan?
Believe it or not, I have nothing, other than the fact that I think we ought to look at a policy of not allowing Boyd Wagner to wear his Batman costume on a motorcycle during Halloween festivities this year. It scares the children. Thank you.
Okay.
When is that parade again? I need to get ready.
It scares some of the adults.
That's how I met my girlfriend.
Didn't scare me shit, did it?
Help us all. That's right. All right, Mr. Steen. Mr. McDaniel.
Yes, Mayor, I would just like to recognize Pat Bridges. He's been our interim city administrator for a month now, and he is doing exceptional work. I am very impressed. I am so glad that he stepped up and is doing the job for us, and I would just like to thank him for all he's doing.
Mr. Pendleton.
No comment.
Mr. Nix. Mr. Zachary. Mr. Warren. Okay, then it's my turn, I guess. A couple of things. Back on the economic development presentation on the 16th, I do think it'll be good, and Mr. Warren, you and I talked about this earlier, to make sure we invite Stedco and the Chamber to that meeting to make sure their leadership is informed of what's going on in economic development, so that we can all understand what some of the options are. And speaking of being informed, last week was the Texas Municipal League conference in Houston. That's where all the cities in the state of Texas come together to talk about issues. Was there, Chief Chu went down there, and I think I saw Mr. Pendleton roaming the halls. You got out of jail for a day at least. Two of the big topics that were discussed, though, I just wanted to let the citizens know: transportation, no surprise there, and water were big topics. And those are areas that the council is actively working. I wanted to take the opportunity to relate for the council and those present tonight that it was about 2 weeks ago that Chief Bridges and I met with representatives from Tarleton and TxDOT to begin dialogue, more open dialogue about what transportation opportunities are available to us, and what TxDOT promised in that meeting is to come back to us with some options to look at some roadway priorities and developments in our community. And so I think it was a good opportunity for us to start that dialogue. And then as far as water is concerned, we are in the Texas Water Development Board is the organization that is responsible for, before I leave transportation, Prop 1 for the November 4th election is going to look at transportation issues. And so if you're not aware of that issue being on the ballot, I'd encourage everyone to become familiar with what that issue is. It actually deals with fencing off some of the rainy day fund for transportation expenses specifically. And we had some presentations on that. The second issue dealing with water, the Texas Water Development Board is in the process of defining projects for the state of Texas, and it relies on a bottom-up process for that to occur. In other words, projects have to be locally identified to get into the plan. And I met down there Mr. Brenner Brown, who is the Region G rep, who has agreed to come to Stephenville and talk to us. We're going to have a meeting with the city and the county, meeting with the Water Development Board to discuss how Erath County and Stephenville can kind of get in the game, so to speak, with those requirements as we move forward. So that's a meeting that'll be coming up. He promised to be here by mid-November, no later, so we look forward to that opportunity. We also have a couple other things going on in economic development arena. The 21st and 22nd of October, Stedco, in cooperation with the city, the chamber, the school district, and Tarleton, is going to be hosting a tour of our community, developers that are coming to town and are going to get the highlights of what our community has to offer. And then last week, the Builders Association invited the city to come and make a presentation to them about what's going on in the areas of permitting and inspections. And I think that was a very healthy dialogue and the beginnings of new relationship between the building community and the city to jointly share in the effort as we move forward. And then lastly, I wanted to just make everybody aware that the city with Tarleton this is the 25th anniversary of their College of Business. And with that, they are sponsoring this year what is called a business plan competition, which is designed to allow local businesses and students to present a business plan, sort of like Shark Tank, if you've ever seen that, to a group with the idea of a business locally being able to start as a winner of the competition, and the prize money is fairly significant. It's $20,000 to the winner, and it'll be awarded next April or May as part of the College of Business annual meeting. And so I think that's a great initiative for our community. And what Tarleton is doing with that is having they're having a meeting where they've invited myself and the chamber and Stedco and Tarleton together to help them as they're trying to put the program together. And we hope to have the new dean, Nemechek, to be able to come to the council, I think, soon and give us an update on that. So some exciting things going on in the community, both on the long range and near term, and I just wanted to give everybody an update on that moving forward. Any questions about any of that stuff I went over? That was a lot. Okay. With that, then, I will call the council into executive session in compliance with the provisions of Texas Open Meetings Law, Section 551, 071, and 074. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight.
Yes, sir. I know. I hear he's not doing well.
Saturday. Came home Saturday. He gave very kind was
Okay. I didn't know he went to the doctor today.
I've been to a week you couldn't hardly hear him. He's had visitors now.
Okay.
He's housebound. Jail housebound.